Welcome you here tonight to our 9/11 post 9/11 tribute after weather last weekend. And I first want to draw your attention to the Patriot Guard captain is holding, has all the names of those who lost their lives on 9/11, and we're paying tribute to those folks, the first responders, on that day. We'd like to begin our tribute. We're first having a pledge to our flag. So if you'll join me in a pledge to the American flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, because we lost our singer for the national anthem, I'm going to attempt that tonight. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
To participate in this ceremony. Standing here amongst all of you citizens, many of whom are first responders yourselves, is definitely an honor for me. I must admit that as I began contemplating and preparing my remarks for today's ceremony, I was somewhat at a loss over what remarks would be appropriate. In my quest to find the appropriate words, I came across literally hundreds of speeches, quotable phrases, prayer, and even poems. Many of the comments that I am about to make are not truly my own words, but rather many of the words have previously been spoken by others. This month, September 2013, marks the 12th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and Flight 93. I am certain that many of you, like myself, can still close your eyes and relive the vivid detail exactly where you were and what you were doing at the time you heard the news. Hardly anyone would disagree that those few moments on the morning of September 11, 2001, life in our country changed forever. During the month of September each year, particularly on September 11th, we Americans should take, at the very least, a few moments to reflect upon this significant historical event. 12 years after this tragedy, it still hurts. It still profoundly affects the United States in a multitude of ways, and we still continue to struggle to make sense of something so horrific and so monumental. It still remains almost unthinkable that it really happened. However, as we remember and reflect upon the tragedy, we must also take the time to reflect upon the significance of the first responders.
Sherburne, Bill Casey.
When Lex asked me to say a few words, my first thought was to go back to the last time I spoke at a 9/11 event, and it happened to be September 11th, 2001, and it was a gathering at the firehouse. So I look back at my notes. So as we look back on September 11th, 2001, we all undoubtedly reflect on some horrific scenes. We have changed the way we think about air travel, security, money flows, and perhaps we've changed the way we think about everything. In fact, on that evening of September 11th, some of us in the community met at the Sherburne Firehouse, and speaking there, I said that this changes everything, referring to the attacks. And it has. That night, we formed a procession, walked around our streets in a silent candlelight vigil. And we have repeated that procession as a memorial every year since then. I said then, I expected that as a nation, a state, and a community, we would be facing tougher economic times, and we did. The economy started to slow after the attacks, and now those attacks have made our lives more challenging. We are facing tighter security at all levels. As a community, I feel it is more important than ever to work to make our small village a safe and economically viable place to live and a place to raise a family. Attracting and retaining young families has been one of my top priorities. Not an easy task in these times. It is the one task that can keep our community viable. Since September 11th, there have been many sacrifices, especially by our military. Some have given all, their lives. I hear stories from members of our armed services who have served countless hours, countless tours of duty, causing them to miss family events like the birth of a child, or losing a year away from their families. Some come home to broken marriage, and others suffer PTSD and find that just coping with everyday life is just too much. When I hear of these bad things, I think of September 11th and how life in America has changed, how difficult life has become for those who protect our freedom. So on this day of remembrance, let us never forget September 11th. Let's always pay tribute to those sacrifices by all who have suffered loss because of the horrific events of that day. Let us all do our part at home to not only remember, but to strengthen our communities, and in a way that pays tribute to those who fight